Dear students, good morning. So today the topic we are going to discuss is lipoproteinemias, abnormalities in lipoproteinemias. So before going to abnormalities in lipoproteinemias, first we have to know what is a lipoprotein. What do you mean by lipoprotein? It's a biochemical assembly. It contains both lipids and proteins, right? So which allows parts to move through the water inside and outside the cell. So what is the role of proteins? Why these proteins gets complex with lipids? Why? Because these proteins will help the lipid molecules to easily get passed from them by making a complex. It will help the lipids to move from inside and outside of the cells. So what does these proteins do? These proteins they will act as an emulsifying agents, so they will act as a emulsifying agents. So thereby they will emulsify the lipid molecules. So many enzymes, transporters, proteins, antigens and toxins are lipoproteins, right? So here these are the examples of lipoproteins, and then this is the structure of a lipoprotein. So if you see this clearly, in this structure you can see the proteinic nature. So all these are this is the apoprotein. This blue color thing is apoprotein. So this is a non-polar lipid code. This is cholesterol ester and this triglyceride, and this is also an apoprotein, and this three sides it is surrounded by apoprotein. Inside it is having phospholipids, cholesterol and triglycerides. So it will forms a complex with these lipids and helps to emulsify this and helps to transport this lipid from inside and outside of the cells. So this is the structure of a lipoprotein. So this is a non-polar lipid core and this is a polar surface coat. So if you can see this picture, you can see how will be the structure of a lipoprotein. Okay. And then so lipoproteins can be divided into three different ways. Based on the density, they are of five types. They are chylomicrons, very low density lipoproteins, low density lipoproteins, high density lipoproteins, and intermediate density lipoproteins. And then based on electrophilic mobilities, like their ability to move in and out of the cells along the plasma membrane, depending on that, again it is of three types. That is pre-beta, beta, and broad beta lipoproteins. This is based on electrophoretic mobilities. Okay, and then based on the nature of apoprotein, based on, as I said that in this picture I have shown you this apoprotein, right? So based on the nature of this apoprotein, again they are classified into four different types. Four different types they are: apolipoprotein A, apolipoprotein B, chylomicrons, and apo-E. So this is the classification of lipoprotein. So once again I am repeating you. So lipoproteins are classified depending on the nature of the protein, or depending on the density, or depending on the electrophilic mobilities. If it is based on the density, it is of five different types. They are very low density lipoproteins, low density lipoproteins, intermediate density lipoproteins, high density lipoproteins, and then chylomicrons. Okay, and then based on electrophoretic mobilities, they are again classified into pre-beta, beta, and broad beta lipoproteins. And based on the nature of the apoprotein, they are classified into four different types. That is apolipoprotein A, apolipoprotein B, and chylomicrons, and apo-E. So this is how they are classified. And then if we can see this, when we can say that there is elevated, when there is elevated LDL cholesterol levels. So there is a program guidelines called National Cholesterol Education Program Cholesterol Guidelines. According to this, what is a desirable range of these cholesterol, and what is a borderline, and what is a high range. So if you see this total cholesterol, it should be less than 200, that is a desirable, and borderline is 200 to 239. If greater than 240 is considered as high cholesterol levels. That means the range is very greater than the normal. And then LDL cholesterol, this is a very bad cholesterol. We consider it as a bad cholesterol. It should be less than 130, and if it is between 130 to 159, it's borderline. If it is greater than 160, we consider it as a serious or high range. And then HDL cholesterol, we also call it as the good cholesterol. It can be high. That means more it is, it will have the benefits. And then 50 and higher is normal. 40 to 49 is a borderline, and if it is less than 40, it's a serious condition. That means we have to treat it. And then triglycerides, it should be less than 200, and borderline is 200 to 390, and if it is greater than 400, we consider it as a high range of triglycerides. Okay, so this is the normal ranges of these cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. Okay, and then so depending on this, depending on the deficiency or changes in the structure, there are what are the depending on the nature and the changes of the structure, these lipoproteinemias or will be divided into different types. The disorders related to lipoproteinemias are of different types. First is hypolipoproteinemias. And in this hypolipoproteinemias, there are different types of abeta-lipoproteinemia. Hypo means decreased. That means there is deficiency of one of the complex structure of this lipoprotein. In that abeta-lipoproteinemia, so what was the defect in case of abeta-lipoproteinemia? In this, there will be no chylomicrons, and or there might be no VLDL or LDL or not formed because of the defect in the loading of ApoB with lipid. So ApoB is a protein, right? It has to form a complex with the lipid. So due to any deficiency or defect in loading of this ApoB, so it doesn't form a complex with this lipid. So there may be no chylomicron, VLDL or LDL will not be properly formed. That we call it as beta lipoproteinemia. A means absent. You can remember it in this way. A means absent. Beta means absent of ApoB protein. We consider it as beta lipoproteinemia. So what are the characteristics of beta lipoproteinemia? There will be, it's a very rare condition. So the blood glycerols levels will be low. Intestine and liver accumulate acylglycerol. So as they gets accumulated in the intestine and liver, in the blood that levels will be low, and then intestinal malabsorption can be seen. Okay. So why this happens? Why? Because there is no proper movement of these lipids inside and outside of the cell. So as a result, all of them gets accumulated in the intestine and liver. So thereby the levels in the blood will be low. And then familial alpha lipoprotein deficiency. So the name itself indicates that it's a genetic, familial means it's a genetic disorder. There is a deficiency of, there is a defect in alpha lipoprotein. So all have low or near absence of HDL. So those who are having this deficiency, they will be having low HDL levels. Usually HDLs are very good for health. So in this condition, there will be very low levels of HDLs, or it may be like within a low range. And then the characteristics of this is hypertriacylglycerolemia due to absence of ApoC2 and low LDL levels, atherosclerosis in the elderly. What do you mean by atherosclerosis? Atheroma means it's a plaque-like formation composed of these fat molecules. So that gets deposited within the blood vessels, causing the narrowing of the lumen of the blood vessel. That we call it as atherosclerosis. This can be seen in the elderly people in case of familial alpha lipoprotein deficiency. Okay. And then this is about hypolipoproteinemias. That means due to deficiency of ApoB, ApoC2, so alpha lipoprotein, and these are the things. And then Tanger's disease, Fisheye disease, ApoA1 deficiency. So all these are familial disorders. And then now it is hyperlipoproteinemia. In this familial lipoprotein lipase deficiency, what does lipase do? Lipase causes the metabolism of lipoprotein, of lipids, right? So because of the deficiency of this lipase, there will be some defect. So that we call it as familial lipoprotein lipase deficiency. It is also called as type 1 hyperlipoproteinemia. So what was the defect in this? Hypertriacylglycerolemia due to deficiency of LPL, that is lipoprotein lipase, or it may be due to abnormal lipoprotein lipase or ApoC2 deficiency causing inactive lipoprotein lipase. So whatever the thing is, here the lipoprotein lipase will be defect. Either it may be absent, that means either it may be deficient, or it may be abnormal, or it may be, or the production of it may be not caused, not occurred. That means due to deficiency of ApoC2, there will be inactive lipoprotein lipase. So in this condition, there is deficiency of or defect of lipoprotein lipase. And then what are the characteristics of familial lipoprotein lipase deficiency? It's slow clearance of chylomicrons. So chylomicrons can't be easily digested, and there will be low levels of LDL and HDL. So both of them gets decreased. Even LDLs will be decreased, and also along with that HDLs will also be decreased. And but there is no increase in coronary disease. There is no risk of getting coronary disease. Okay, why? LDLs are the main reason which causes coronary disease. So as their levels also decreased, there is less risk of getting coronary disease. And then familial hypercholesterolemia. So once again, in this type 1, as there is deficiency of lipase, so it doesn't undergo the values that lipoprotein levels will be high. Actually, it has to undergo metabolism, but it doesn't undergo metabolism due to deficiency of lipase, so the levels will be high. So that we call it as hyperlipoproteinemia. And then familial hypercholesterolemia, which is also called as type 2A. In this, there is defective LDL receptors or mutation in the ligand region of ApoB100. So this is the defect we can see in case of familial hypercholesterolemia. So in this condition, we can see that there is increased levels of LDL and hypercholesterolemia. That means increase in the cholesterol levels, resulting in atherosclerosis and an coronary disease. So as LDLs are elevated and cholesterol levels are elevated, they get accumulated in the blood vessels, causing atherosclerosis. If there is atherosclerosis, it obviously leads to coronary artery disease, right? So this is what about type 2A. Whereas type 1, in this there is no risk of getting coronary disease. Why? Because there will be decrease in the levels of LDL and also HDLs. And there will be slow clearance of chylomicrons can be seen in case of type 1B, type 1. And then familial type 3 hyperlipoproteinemia. This is also called as broad beta disease. And then remnant removal disease. That means it's unable to remove these lipoproteins from the intestine. And it is also called as dysbeta lipoproteinemia. That means due to defect in beta lipoprotein. So what is a defect? Deficiency in remnant clearance by the liver is due to abnormality in ApoE. So it is caused due to abnormality in ApoE. And what are the characteristics? There is increase in chylomicrons and VLDL remnants. That means whatever the VLDL particles are left over, that gets accumulated. So finally leading to finally it causes hypercholesterolemia, xanthomas. Due to accumulation of these fat deposits, it causes xanthomas and atherosclerosis. And then type 4 is familial hypertriacylglycerolemia. Triacylglycerolemia. So in this there will be overproduction of VLDLs and is often associated with glucose intolerance and hyperinsulinemia. That means in this there will be increased levels of glucose levels and hyperinsulinemia will be there. And also there will be overproduction of VLDLs, that is very low density lipoproteins. The characteristics we will be seeing here are high cholesterol and VLDL and subnormal LDLs and HDL, and is associated with alcoholism, diabetes mellitus and obesity. As I said that glucose intolerance and hyperinsulinemia, so these are caused due to diabetes in case of diabetes mellitus patients, and is also seen in case of alcoholics and obese patients. And then hepatic lipase deficiency. So the defect is deficiency of the enzyme leads to accumulation of, so as there is a deficiency of lipase, it leads to accumulation of large triacylglycerol rich HDL and VLDL remnants. So there will be increase in the VLDL and HDL levels. So the patients obviously patients will often experience the symptoms like xanthomas and coronary heart disease. Okay. So once again, will be saying this hypolipoproteinemias and hyperlipoproteinemias. In hypolipoproteinemias, we will be seeing a beta lipoproteinemia, lipoprotein deficiency, and ApoA1 deficiency, fishitis or tangier we also call them as in this way. And then the defect is in the beta lipoproteinemia, the defect is there will be no chylomicrons, no VLDLs or LDLs or less formed or maybe absent. This is caused due to deficiency of apoprotein, ApoB beta, right? So ApoB, due to deficiency or defect in ApoB, this is caused. And then this is caused familial alpha lipoprotein deficiency. It is caused due to the absence of ApoC2. So here there will be low levels of HDLs, and also low levels of LDL levels also can be seen. But triacylglycerolemia will be there. That means triacylglycerols will be more. Atherosclerosis, it leads to atherosclerosis in the elderly patients. And then hyperlipoproteinase, it is of 1, 2A, 3, 4, and 5. 5 different types are there in this type 1. In this name itself, we have to remember lipoprotein lipase deficiency. And this is type 2 is due to hypercholesterolemia. This is due to defect in LDL receptors or mutation of ligand in the type above B100 region. And here type 3 is hyperlipoproteinemia. This is also called as broad beta disease or dysbeta lipoproteinemia. So in this there will not be proper clearance of these lipids, so leading to accumulation of them in the blood, causing this hypercholesterolemia, xanthomas, and atherosclerosis. And then hypertriacylglycerolemia. So here triacylglycerols will be increased. That means high cholesterol and VLDLs can be seen, and LDLs can be seen in the subnormal range, and HDLs, and is associated mainly, this type 4 is associated with alcoholism, diabetes, and obesity. As it is involved in diabetic patients, there will be glucose intolerance, and insulin hyperinsulinemia is also seen in case of type 4. And then hepatic lipase deficiency, as due to this deficiency of lipase, all of them gets accumulated, like large triglycerols such as HDLs and VLDLs gets accumulated, and so the patients will be having the symptoms of xanthomas and coronary heart disease. And then hyperlipoproteinemia explanation is here. It is also known as hyperlipidemia or hyperlipoproteinemia. So it is defined as the presence of raised or abnormal levels of lipids. Hyper means raised of or abnormal levels of lipoproteins in the blood. So okay, so this is abnormality in this abnormality is common in general production in general population. So and is a one of the modifiable risk of coronary heart disease. That means if we find these levels are abnormal, if we can correct this, we can prevent the patient from getting coronary heart disease. So that is the reason we call it as modifiable risk factor. That means we can modify it. If it is high, we can use certain medications, or we can make certain changes in our diet so that we can lower the risk of coronary heart disease. So that is the reason we call it as modifiable risk factors. And then dyslipidemia is generally characterized by increasing fasting concentrations of. So how do we characterize this dyslipidemia? So if we see this, if we take the fasting lipid profile, in that fasting lipid profile, total cholesterol levels will be high, LDL cholesterol levels will be high, and triglyceride levels will be high in conjugation with decrease in the HDL cholesterol. So it is a good cholesterol, good lipoprotein which is required, and the remaining three are bad cholesterol level. So in case of dyslipidemia, there will be increase in LDLs and total cholesterol and triglycerides in the fasting lipid profile, along with decrease in the HDL cholesterol. Then that condition we call it as dyslipidemia. So on diagnosing hyperlipoproteinemia, so once it is diagnosed, the patient is diagnosed with hyperlipoproteinemia. Hyperlipidemic status should be evaluated to determine whether it is primary lipoprotein disorder or secondary to any one of this variety of metabolic disorders. So we have to rule out whether it is a primary disorder or secondary. Secondary means it is caused due to initially the patient may be having diabetes. So because of that, there will be glucose intolerance and hyperinsulinemia. As I said, that it leads to some type 4 of this type 4 hypercholesterolemia, right? So we have to rule out whether it is due to primary or secondary cause. And then the diagnosis of primary hyperlipoproteinemia is made after secondary causes have been excluded. So how can we come to conclude that it is primary? So we have to go for HbA1c or fasting blood sugar, and so that we can come to know that it is not caused due to diabetes. And also we have to ask the patient whether he is alcoholic. So if it is not, then also we can exclude that. So if no other reasons are there, then we can conclude it as primary lipoproteinemia. Okay. And then hereditary hyperlipoproteinemia, it is of like in that familial lipoprotein lipase deficiency, that is type 1 hyperlipoproteinemia. It is characterized by high levels of chylomicrons and triglycerides and a deficiency of lipoprotein lipase. So this enzyme, what does it do? It will accelerate the breakdown of lipoproteins. So the disease onset is usually seen in infancy. That means when the baby is newborn babies only, we can see this kind of disease. And type 1 has a pure elevation of triglycerides in the chylomicron fraction. That means there will be increased levels of more increased levels of triglycerides compared to chylomicrons. That means in case of type 1 hyperlipoproteinemia, there will be severe rise in triglyceride levels can be seen. And then hereditary hyperlipoproteinemia, we also call it as type 2 familial hypercholesterolemia. So this type 2 is broken down again into two types, that is type 2A and type 2B. So both of them will be having elevated cholesterol levels and also elevated triglycerides. So the familial or genetic version of type 2 often develop xanthomas. What do you mean by xanthomas? Xanthomas is nothing but under the skin you'll be finding yellow color deposits can be seen under the skin of knuckles, elbows, buttocks and heels. They have xanthelasmas, that means small yellow patches on the eyelids. If it is on the eyelids, we call it as xanthelasmas, or if it is under the knuckles, elbow and buttocks or heels, we call it as xanthomas. Xanthomas is nothing but yellow colored fat deposition beneath the skin. Under the skin, we call it as xanthomas. So I'll show you it in the next slide, the pictures. And then people with type 2B, they also have high levels of triglycerides in their blood. So there will be increased in the triglyceride levels in the blood. And the onset is usually after age 20. Whereas type 1 is in the age, type 1 we can see in the age of infants, type 2 we can see in the age of 20, especially type 2B. So here the main thing to remember is xanthomas, that is formation of yellow colored patches under the skin. Deposits under, this is xanthelasmas, this is xanthomas. So this we can see in case of type 2B. And then dysbeta-lipoproteinemia, we also call it as broad beta disease. So it includes accumulation of IDL, VLDL, chylomicron remnants. So that means there will not be proper clearance of these kind of lipoproteins from the intestine. So there in the as it is not clearly cleared from intestine, they gets absorbed from the intestine. So it leads to accumulation of IDL and VLDL and chylomicrons. So we can see in this case elevated levels of total cholesterol and triglycerides. Both total cholesterol and triglycerides will be elevated, and it is caused due to a disorder caused by ApoE or ApoE receptor. So it is associated with diabetes, hypothyroidism, and is also associated with type 3 disorders. So type 3 appears 1 in 10,000 people and elevates both triglycerides and cholesterol with consequent vascular disease. That means coronary artery disease, or you can see this venous thromboembolism and DVT, that is deep vein thrombosis. In that, like what are the diseases that are related to vasculature, blood vessels, in that conditions we can see this disease, and the disease onset is usually in adults. Even this beta lipoproteinemia is also seen in case of adults. And then abeta lipoproteinemia, in this there will be only elevation in the triglycerides will be seen, but there will not be increase in the risk of vascular disease. So there is no risk of coronary artery disease. And here the genetic defect in the synthesis of ApoB, that means there will be defect in the production of ApoB, and then both chylomicrons and VLDLs are get affected. So fat metabolism occurs because chylomicrons cannot be formed by intestine. So fat malabsorption occurs because chylomicrons cannot be formed by intestine. As chylomicrons are not formed by intestine, it shows fat malabsorption. That means unnecessary absorption. Mal means decreased absorption of fat. Disease onset is usually during puberty or early adulthood. And in this condition, we can see increased levels of VLDL and LDL, which is resulted from the overproduction of VLDL. So there will be increase in both VLDL and LDL, and mostly there will be increase in the triglycerides. And but there is no risk of getting coronary artery disease or vascular disease, and it is caused due to defect in ApoB. Whereas dysbeta lipoproteinemia, it is caused due to defect in ApoE or ApoE receptors. And then secondary hyperlipoproteinemia, so which is caused due to secondary reasons. That means in case of diabetes mellitus, there will be elevated triglycerides and reduced HDL cholesterol. In the patients who are having diabetes, they will be having elevated triglycerides and reduced HDL cholesterol. So this condition will be amplified. That means will be made more when the patient is having obesity and hyperthyroidism along with diabetes mellitus. So that we call it a secondary condition. And then the thyroid hormone affects the rate of many chemical processes in the body. That means how does this thyroid hormone will affect our different functions? That means it will affect clearing of fats from the blood, leads to an elevation of cholesterol. So when there is abnormalities in these thyroid hormones, fats cannot be cleared from the blood easily. So as a result, what will happen? It gets accumulated in the blood, leading to elevation of serum cholesterol levels. So And then kidney disease also raise the lower density lipoproteins as they are not properly excreted. And then liver disease. So depending on the stage and severity, it can raise or lower any of the blood fats. So depending on the severity, usually fat metabolism takes place in the liver, right? So when there is a disease in this liver, so depending on the severity or the range of this liver damage, there will be raise or lower of these blood fats. Even alcohol raises triglycerides, and cigarette smoking, how does it affect? It will decreases the HDL cholesterol, which is good for health, and usually high lipid levels are asymptomatic. High lipid, as generally they won't be having any symptoms. Only when it is very severe, then only will be experiencing symptoms. So occasionally when fat levels are high, it forms xanthomas. If there is very high levels of fat, it gets deposited under the skin, then only we can see these xanthomas. And then very high triglyceride levels may cause liver to enlarge. So when there is very high levels of triglycerides, they get accumulated within the hepatocytes, causing their increase in their size. That means liver to enlarge. And then high lipids increase the risk of developing pancreatitis. So they also cause the risk of developing pancreatitis and atherosclerosis, which is a chronic inflammatory disease that is superimposed in the background of lipid abnormalities. So as we know that it is caused due to lipid abnormalities, that is formation of atheromas. And then in humans, oxidized LDL in plasma and within atherosclerotic lesions is strongly associated with coronary artery disease and acute coronary syndromes. That means if there is a presence of oxidized LDL in the plasma, it leads to, it will be causing the coronary artery disease and acute coronary syndromes. So once again, I'll repeat this secondary hyperlipoproteinemias. See, in case of diabetes mellitus, there will be elevated triglycerides and reduced HDL cholesterols, and it will be amplified by hypothyroidism and obesity. What does this hypothyroidism do? In case of hyperthyroidism, there will not be proper clearance of the fat from the blood. So as a result of that, there will be elevation of these cholesterol levels. Whereas in case of kidney disease, there will not be proper clearance of LDLs. As a result, serum LDLs will be raised. And then in case of liver disease, depending on the severity of the disease and depending on the severity of the liver disease, there will be either raise or a lowering of any blood fats can be seen. And then alcohols cause increase in the triglycerides, smoking cause decrease in the HDLs. So these are the diseases and how, or these are the risk factors. How does they cause secondary hyperlipoproteinemias? And in all these hyperlipoproteinemias, usually when there is high lipid levels or lipoprotein levels, it is usually asymptomatic. Only when it is very severe, then only we can see like physically what can we find is formation of xanthomas. And then if there is very high triglyceride levels, it causes the liver to enlarge. And when there is accumulation of high lipids, it causes it may be cause pancreatitis, and also they causes the risk of atherosclerosis. And if these oxidized LDLs are very high in the blood plasma, they will cause coronary artery disease and acute coronary syndrome. And then what are the risk factors of abnormalities in lipoproteinemia? So levels of LDL, they will get increased slightly with age, and other factors includes familial history, obesity, diet high in saturated fat, inactivity, alcohol consumption, and cigarette smoking. As I said that alcohol consumption, what does it do? It will increase the triglycerides, and cigarette smoking will decrease HDLs. Okay. So before you study this topic, first you have a clear-cut idea of lipoproteins, which you have studied in the first year of your biochemistry, and then you go with this table. And you go with this table, and what are the different types of lipoproteins, that is different types of hypo and hyperlipoproteinemias. And then you go to this chart, what are the normal range and what are the ranges in case of hypercholesterolemia. And then you go with the significance of each kind of lipoproteinemias. And then you can once go through these main four types of lipoproteinemias. Okay. So there is nothing much to explain in this topic, just you have to remember all these points, okay? And I hope everybody understood, and if you're having any doubts, you can ask me. Thank you everyone. So This is all about abnormalities in lipoproteinemias.